What is happening, you beautiful bastards? Welcome back to another week. This week, you have the G&G Show.
I like your creativity. So we're actually going to be talking about a few things in this episode. But if you've listened to this type of episode in the past, you know we're going to be all over the place. So there's no real point in telling you what it's going to be about. Give it a listen.
But I think going forward, because we're trying to do one of these a month.
Yeah.
If you guys want us to hit a topic, hit us up on Facebook, or we could probably put a poll out too, huh?
Yeah, we'll do both.
Yeah.
What is happening, you beautiful bastards?
So, Griz, I told you off air a couple of days ago that my 4Runner died.
Yeah.
So, listeners, I have, or had until today, a 2001 Toyota 4Runner. I love that truck. I did all kinds of things to it. But last year, I replaced the transmission because it blew up.
That thing didn't owe him nothing.
No, it's 20 years old. So it was like 2 weeks ago, the transmission blew up again, even worse this time. Every gear was neutral. But, I ended up just getting a new car this time. And my brother-in-law put the truck up on the Facebook Marketplace because I don't know how to use any of that stuff.
The Facebook Marketplace.
Yes. Well, not the Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah,
they know what I'm talking about, Griz. But anyway, it was up for less than 6 hours and it had over 20 hits. Super popular. If you don't know anything about 4Runners, it's a third gen, highly sought after, and mine was almost spotless except for a violently blown transmission. So he ended up finding someone. The guy showed up here about an hour ago with a dolly. That didn't work. No, it's four-wheel drive. You can't.
Yes, you can.
You'd have to pull the drive shaft.
Oh, no.
He was not prepared to do that. Because he rented the dolly from U-Haul, he was very concerned about liabilities. Fair point. Fair point.
You could absolutely do that. You know why? And listeners, I used to be a mechanic. You could do this because the only thing that you're actually worried about blowing up when towing a four-wheel drive vehicle in a dolly is the transmission. But yours was already gone.
But the transfer case was not gone enough. So when he tried to roll the rear wheels, it tried to roll the front wheels.
Yeah, and it wouldn't care.
It just locked up the rear wheels and dragged them. So I said, hey, that's not going to work. Anyway, that's beside the point. That was a whole fiasco. He's coming back on Saturday with a flatbed. Problem solved. What really blew my mind, he's sending it to Guatemala.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't realize that was a thing. Because, you always hear about people.
Transmission in that bitch.
That's what I was going to do, but I decided I don't want to fuck with it anymore. So it actually, it makes me very happy to know that my 4Runner is now going to live a new full life once again in Guatemala. 230,000 miles. I can't complain. I got what I needed out of it.
It's like a whore that's like 80. It's just beating every day of its life, and it's just going to die a horrible death.
No, I took care of it.
You're going to see a picture of it someday, just fucking rolled over on its roof, crushed.
Wouldn't that be wild if the next military conflict was in Guatemala and we see people standing up out of my sunroof with their fully automatic rifles?
You have enough. You know what? They'll open the doors and we'll see it's still white, and that's how we'll know.
Well, it's got the big decal on the side, so it'll stand out like a sore thumb. But I was super excited to find out that it's going to Guatemala because now I know it's not just going to be parted out. It's not going to be fixed by some shady shop trying to just flip this thing for a quick buck. Someone's going to love this thing in Guatemala. I didn't know that was a thing. So there we go. That's the most recent thing in my life, guys.
That kind of reminds me. Do you know there's a avocado cartel?
I do. And we have a lot of issues with the avocados right now.
That's right. They got banned for Super Bowl.
I don't know the full extent of this. What do you know about it?
So drug money in Central America is slowly dwindling because it's being legalized, and also, they're cutting down on it in the States and whatnot. So they realized there's only certain areas that you can grow avocados in the world, and Central America is one of them. Mexico's like perfect for it, right?
Right.
And so they realized, like, holy shit, this is a cash cow, because all the Americans eating all their avocados and shit.
I just want to point out that 30 years ago, avocados didn't make this much money. It's a millennial thing.
They were there, but it was a big push to actually like get people to buy avocados. But in like the 80s, people weren't touching them because they were
It's everywhere.
So anyway, So cartels are basically they're kidnapping, they're holding ransom avocado farmers. And what happened on right around the Super Bowl was a health inspector he had a death threat go towards him
for inspecting the avocados.
Yeah, so America was like, all right, that's it. We're not buying fucking Mexican avocados anymore. I don't know how they cleared it up. Maybe we sent in like SEAL Team 6 and they killed all the fucking cartels so we could have avocados again.
That's a very American way of doing business. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know. I just noticed that my avocado life didn't change. I still get the ones that they're still never ripe. So they got to sit in my windowsill for a week. I don't know.
Yeah,
ever since COVID, avocado's been trash.
It's not trash. It's just, you have good turnover.
Griz, I buy avocados to eat them, not watch them ripen.
Well, if you were smart, you'd just always have a rotating stock of avocados.
I'm not that smart or that ambitious. It's a lot of work.
But anyway, so one dude had to pay one farmer had to pay something like $12 million fucking dollars, or maybe it was 2 million. Either way, a shit ton of money to get his family back.
That's wild. Where did he get the money? Is there that much money in avocados? He borrowed
it from everyone. Well, he makes he made a lot out of avocados, but he had to borrow money too.
That's a sketchy game too, because if a Mexican cartel kidnapped your family for ransom, there's a good chance your family's already dead anyway.
That's what I would think. But apparently they don't do that yet. I don't know. There's like an entire police squad just to police avocado farming. It's crazy.
The avocado
fucking
police.
Central America.
What's this world coming to?
We also have Ukraine yet.
I was just about to bring that up. As far as boycotting products, we've gone so far in America as to actually remove Russian vodka from bar shelves.
So my wife asked me about this today. She's like, "Do you think this actually will make that much of a hit, to them?" And I was like, I have no clue if it will. She's like, or is it just people riding the wave of, this is popular right now? I was like, well, they're definitely riding the wave, but I don't know how much it'll hurt Russia. They already sold it,
Speaking of riding a wave, I was actually thinking about this today. So, the whole issue of Ukraine and Russia being at war aside, that's a serious issue. I acknowledge that. But if you look at social media, there's a lot of shit on there that's it's sensationalizing the weirdest aspects of it.
Not only is it sensationalizing the weirdest aspects of it, what I find interesting is you can actually see the misinformation form.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's insane.
And so you're like, you go from, you saw this thing in its first birth of a video and what it was. And then all of a sudden someone says something as a joke. And it actually made me think about it today. You have all these cults in the world now that believe something crazy, like flat earthers or fucking mole people or, any of the above.
Yeah.
How many of them were started because someone like us was just being an asshole and joking and in satire, made a joke on the internet, and someone didn't know that they were making a joke, didn't take it that way, and was just like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I think that's how flat Earth started. I'm actually surprised. I'm surprised birds aren't real didn't take off more than it did. I just realized that
birds are real.
Wait, what? So when I first heard that, I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard. Because as you guys know, I love conspiracies, especially the ones that are just that far out there. They don't even make sense. Birds are not real. But there's actually, even though none of the evidence really held up to anything, it was a compelling story. It makes sense that the drones charge on the wires.
Yeah, I love it.
But it didn't take off like flat Earth.
The problem is with that one,
it must be too wacky.
Well, no, I think anyone, even someone who just doesn't see it, anyone can get the joke there. Anyone can feel the satire there.
Yeah.
Right. Where when we're talking about flat earthers and when they start going on and why they don't want you to know and stuff, there are people who believe it because it's the joke wasn't as obvious as it needed to be for them. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what to say to that.
I don't either.
You're right.
The problem is going forward, it's going to be like this and you're never going to get away from it. because there's always going to be people like me who are just an asshole and being like, this is funny. And
then people like me
then there's
saying,
going to be
Griz,
retards
don't say
like,
that. You're going to convince somebody.
when I won't listen to Jerry. And then next thing we know, there's lizards on the moon.
Disclaimer, don't listen to anything Griz says here.
No, God, no. Why would you? We are two dumb monkeys.
That's for sure. So there's one other thing I wanted to bring up too. I don't think we're really seeing much of this happening, in the United States in particular, but there's been a lot of studies on this. That's universal basic income. Now, we know Joe Manchin thinks that everyone's going to use it on drugs and hookers because that's what he said.
I mean, that's what I'd use it on.
Apparently, it's more common than I thought. If he thinks it's such a problem that you can't give anybody money, I'm missing out. But this is the same guy driving a Maserati and living in a foreclosed houseboat that he bought for super cheap. I'd imagine he's one of the first people to start doing drugs when he gets money. Probably coked up whenever he's not in Congress. Maybe even when he is. But he's definitely not going to support universal basic income. And we can't give you guys an all-encompassing conversation here. We're just going to touch on this for a little bit, and I want to see what Griz thinks of this kind of this idea.
Universal basic income.
Yeah, what do you think of it?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot to it. I think so many Republicans fight it for so long because it was communism, but now apparently communism's okay with the GOP.
Yeah, based on the Ukraine. Yeah, you're right.
But like, to me, there's going to be a point where you hit where it's just got to be a thing. Like, I'm all for encouraging people to work and to have a good work life and things like that, and to make money and to get further in life. All for it. I don't like people fucking just sucking on the teat of the system. But I mean, we've talked about it before, where if you made it to where it was literally you could be on it and you would survive. You wouldn't be thriving. You wouldn't be.
That's where I think a lot of people who adamantly oppose this misunderstand its purpose. It's not really to live on per se. You're not gonna have a comfortable life if that's your only source of income. What sounds like the most effective one I've heard is just a flat rate $1,000 a month for everyone. And
I mean, you can't survive on that though.
No, it's not meant for survival. So let's take the as an example.
Oh, you're saying for everyone.
Yeah, everyone in the US. Now, I'm not going to say I'm for this or against this because I haven't seen enough data to say one way or the other, but I have seen some compelling evidence to at least explore the idea.
See, I think I think the future of it is still going to be like welfare. And
well, that's the issue we run into. They want to replace welfare, which I think is a good idea because it's entirely too bureaucratic, and that's where most of the money goes on welfare. And one thing you brought up is, well, how do you pay for it, right?
Yeah, that's always a problem.
That's always going to be a problem. But a good chunk of this, if you don't know anybody on welfare and you've never been on it, it's not always simple to get it. You got to jump through a lot of hoops sometimes.
Yeah, but to me, that's not a big problem.
Well, let me get to where I'm going with this. There's somebody holding those hoops up for you to jump through. There's entire government departments, government organizations that exist that prop this up and run it. They basically have to vet everybody. That maybe they're not so good at it. That's a totally different issue. But there's at least like 2 people for every person applying that has to look over everything, approve it, send it up to somebody else. A lot of it's on the computer now, but there's still a lot of administration. Now, one thing that I've heard about the example of the $1,000 a month for everybody, that gets rid of all welfare programs that exist currently.
Yeah, but I got to imagine what they're making on welfare is more than that. And like I said, you can't survive on $1,000 a month.
Well, people that, let's say you're disabled, you're not really living on welfare. You might get food stamps and stuff like that, but you're mostly getting your money from disability. Now, I would argue too that for something like this to work, you'd have to totally get rid of all the welfare, which is going to eliminate all of the administrative costs of those organizations. Those are basically going to dissolve. That's a lot of money every year. But for this to work, you have to also implement a totally different healthcare scheme, which is another interesting thing that the GOP just did a study on this. Do you see this?
No.
So GOP did a study on the concept of let's call it universal healthcare.
Healthcare. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So whatever that looks like to the American public, it's basically government health insurance. You go to the doctor, it's pretty much all covered.
Yeah, I think there's varying degrees of that though, but yeah.
Yeah. So we're not going to get too much into the details here, but the GOP did a study on that type of health system for the United States. And everything about their study said that it would increase GDP, it would reduce poverty, it would increase the amount of spending money people had, which would help the economy grow as well.
So they threw it away.
I haven't heard anything about it since. So that's pretty much what's going to happen. I just think it's curious because, I'm not a statistician. I don't really know what the math looks like on this.
Jerry doesn't know math.
I don't know the maths, but I can tell you almost everybody I know over the last 15 years, their health costs have only gone up and healthcare is kind of going down.
Yeah, I think a lot of the states already have something already implemented, at least the ones around us do. I can't speak for all of them because I have no fucking clue.
Yeah.
Is it just a matter of time before they all bring up something? To me, I think it's going to be it's a better system. If you're a working person, you're already paying for healthcare. And if you're in any of the states that have healthcare, like free healthcare, you're already paying for it anyways. And even if they're not, you're still paying for it because if you're not in a state that has free healthcare, you're still paying for the people going in because they're not paying that bill. No one can afford an MRI on their own.
Yeah. It's
if they can, they would have healthcare.
Yeah. Actually, I have healthcare. And the last time I got an MRI was last year. And even with healthcare, it still cost me $1,000 out of pocket to get the MRI.
Yeah, but I think an MRI without healthcare is like 26 grand.
It's a stupid amount of money when they literally just stuff you in a tube and you lay there for half an hour.
And you can have like 4 of those in a day. Yeah. That's 100 grand. Like if you don't have healthcare, odds are you're not able to foot that bill.
No. And
guess what? Someone still pays that bill.
Another good example, colonoscopies. No,
never had.
We're getting to be older. Some of us have had them. Some of us are going to be having them.
Yeah, I got 2 years.
So full disclosure, I've had more than one.
Yeah, but Jerry, we all know you have bitch internals.
Sometimes you got to scope them, see how they're doing. Anyway, I had one. I don't remember the last time I had one, but it was within the last couple of years. And I looked at the itemized bill. It was 10 grand. $10,000
shoved up your ass.
Yeah, I could have done that for free.
I'm sure porn.
Stay home and do it.
We could get a fucking oscilloscope and just whoop. You just got to get the right person.
But those are just a couple of examples that there's no way we could have decent healthcare and take care of ourselves without some kind of health insurance. And the problem is health insurance gets worse every year.
Yeah, it's getting bad. The argument always is that they don't want to pay for it, which fine. I can understand you don't want to pay for someone else's, but at the same time, like
you already are.
Is it not a human right to, be alive? Like, I don't know.
Excuse me, but who gave you the right to sound so liberal?
Yeah, no shit. And then on top of it, they always say that your health care is going to go to shit because like Canada or London or London, yes, one city, Great Britain, things like that. But it's just I think we're gonna get there. I don't know if it'll ever be on a federal level though.
I don't think it really has to be. But what I was getting to before was that some sort of system like that needs to be implemented, where getting rid of all welfare and doing flat $1,000 a month won't work. It'll screw a lot of people over.
I mean, the fucked up thing that if anyone who's worried about like the paying for it thing is what you're paying for stuff now is inflated ridiculously.
Yes, it is.
Versus what it could be and what everywhere else is paying. Like it's absurd.
Now, another reason why I think that we should at least do an appropriate study into this sort of thing. Automation it's really catching up to what a human can do, right?
To a degree. I mean, when it comes to a lot of manufacturing, sure.
Yeah, and there are certain jobs that a machine will never be able to do it until we have, legitimate androids that can more or less pass as human. That's a long way off. But we'll be dead. It won't be my problem, I guess. There's a lot of jobs that can be outsourced, even office administrative jobs, like bank tellers. You don't really need a person. Look at Walmart.
No. Well, I mean,
Walmart,
realistically, your generation that goes into a bank is dying.
Yeah, it's true.
We do everything on our phones, or we go to a teller. Same thing with a grocery store.
A perfect example of that. My 4Runner died, like I said in the beginning. I ended up buying a 2019 Toyota Camry. I already have one, and I know I like it, so I got another one because my wife drives that one. Now I got this to drive to work. Everywhere that I looked at all the local dealerships, all the ones that were within distance for me to be willing to drive to it. The exact same car that I purchased was thousands of dollars more by going somewhere in person. And I ended up getting it through Carvana. No, we are not sponsored by Carvana. It just happens to be who I used. And the car it was like 5,000 less. It had 10,000 less miles.
Did they deliver it to your door?
It's getting delivered on Friday.
That's awesome.
And my initial reaction as someone who's bought a lot of cars is, well, what if I don't like it? What if it's got a tick or something? Like the engine makes noise. 7 days. I actually talked to them on the phone. I have 7 days to send it back for any reason. Like I sit in it and I'm like, this driver's seat's uncomfortable. I don't want this car. They'll take it back.
Smells like old people.
That smells like shit in here. Take it back.
They need to make it like pods, though. Right now it's a flatbed truck. I want to see a car roll up on this like four-wheeled thing, and it drives up and puts it on your driveway for you and pulls up.
Well, I've seen the Carvana flatbeds drive around. It looks like something from the Jetsons, except it's got wheels. Have you seen the white ones? They say Carvana on the side. It's fancy looking.
But like on the subject of banks, though,
yeah,
I mean, COVID kind of hit the nail in that coffin, I think. Have you tried to go to a bank since COVID happened?
No, and I have Bank of America specifically because their ATM lets me deposit checks and cash. So I don't have to talk to a person because COVID made that almost impossible.
Well, so if any big bank, Bank of America is one of them, they like closed all their locations. And
did they?
The world went on. Like there was no big issues.
Yeah.
What do you, I mean, other than businesses having to drop off change, which is a big thing, the rest of us don't have to use it.
Yeah.
You have an ATM, you have your phone. If you want, you don't even need to fucking get a banker's check anymore. You can either do Venmo or other things like that, and it works immediately.
Yeah, actually, I just lost my debit card like 2 weeks ago, and I've been using a credit card and then paying the bill every other day. So I finally logged into my Bank of America app and ordered a new card.
Lazy fuck.
Yeah, I know. My wife got tired of me saying, "Hey, let me have your card." So what blows my mind now about that is they're going to send the card, and they said, "Hey, your card's on the way, but before it gets there, you want us just put it on your Apple account?" So I was like, "What? I don't need it." So I hit yes. Bam. The card that's not at my house yet is now on my phone. I used it today. That's the kind of technology we live with. I'm so far behind.
This is coming from the guy who like didn't want to have like Alexa in his house.
I still don't have that in my house.
Yeah, but like you didn't want it in your house because you were worried it was going to steal your soul.
It will steal my soul. It's going to try and get everything. That reminds me, you're probably going to think I'm an idiot for this, but I compiled all the data. I crunched the numbers, even though I said I was bad at the maths. I'm not that bad. I crunched the numbers on how much profit Google makes every year.
Oh my God.
It was $263.7 billion in 2020. And I looked up. How much
did you crunch?
I'm getting there. $263 billion in profit in 2020. They had I don't remember the exact number. It was about 4.4 billion users. And so
Google?
This is Google.
Okay.
And they collect data just like everybody else on all their users. So I did the math, and every single one of their users is worth about $58 a year to them. So I tracked back my Google usage. It's about 20 years now. And you can go to Google and request all the data they have on you. And they'll send you a big ass file. It's like 100 gigabytes of data.
God damn.
I looked through it all and did the math and realized they owe me $1,276. So I looked up their billing department, and I'm trying to figure out how to send them a bill for my data, just to
Folks,
see what happens.
This is what happens when you don't have much going on in life. This is what happens when you're bored and
Now,
you have a man.
My wife says that's a bad idea, but I look at it this way. It's not illegal to send them a bill. They don't have to pay it.
They're not gonna pay you.
So my dad, who's a computer guy, he's some kind of computer network administrator. He says, I can tell you what they're going to do. They're going to throw it in the trash as soon as it comes in.
Mm-hmm. So why even bother?
What do I got to
You've
lose?
Wasted. How long did it take you to crunch the numbers?
Like 15 minutes.
Okay, that was worth more than your 1,000 and however much that they fucking owe you.
Because I wouldn't be here if I made that in 15 minutes.
No, but time is money.
Listen, I'm going to update you guys when I send this bill. I found the billing department information. I'm trying to sort through how the United States does it because they break it down by country. I'm going to send them the bill. I'm going to have a signature receipt required for it. So someone's going to sign for this. Then I'll know they got it. And I'll let you guys know what happens. If I get a bill, I'll tell you how I did it. You guys get paid too.
Yeah, I highly doubt you're going to get anything because you already accepted the terms and conditions.
Yeah,
you ever see that fucking South Park episode, man?
Yeah, nobody reads that.
Ain't nobody fucking reading that shit.
Yeah, but they updated it enough that I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe I can get away with it.
Yeah, maybe. I doubt it.
Anyway, we were talking about universal basic income. Let's get back to that.
To me, I think it's I think it'll have to happen. It's just, it probably won't be very pretty. You know what I mean? It's going to be a survival thing.
Yeah, that's what it should be. Because actually, a lot of people who are against universal basic income, their argument, I think the main one that I hear the most is it will incentivize people to not work. The reality is it'll incentivize people to not work for peanuts. They still want to work. Every larger scale study of this particular setup has shown that most people will work. Even now, if you look at the welfare system we have now, there are people that abuse it. It's every system. Mm-hmm. You're not going to avoid that, but it's not to the extent that people think it is or say that it is.
To me, if you make it, it all comes down to if you get it right. If you get it right and a person can survive on it, but they can't really do much outside of that, mm-hmm. You're going to make them want to work.
And most people want to do more than the bare minimum and do better mm-hmm. than the bare minimum. Because, yeah, $1,000 a month might pay most of your rent, but it's not going to buy you an Xbox.
What rent is that paying?
I said most. It depends on where you live.
Nowadays, dude, rent went up a lot.
Yeah, 1,000 might be half of your rent. Still, most people will use that in a way that allows them to live in a place, you know, whether they spend all the money on the shit they want extra and use their own money for bills or the other way around. That's probably what most people are going to do with it.
Now, on that subject of paying for rent, the one thing that is that I have a fascination with the Ukrainian crisis or war or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I don't think we've labeled it yet. I guess we'll call it a war. It's a war for right now.
Ukrainian territorial conflict. Mm-hmm. And there's all sorts of shit flying all over the media saying one way or another. But one thing is that we do know for certain is that the ruble has fucking face planted hardcore.
Invest now. One ruble is worth less than 1 American cent.
Yeah. But so it went from, I want to say it was like 12 cents, right, on Friday. Mm-hmm. To less than a cent today, so today is Monday, the 28th. Mm-hmm. So think about that. If you were anything, if you're just a regular working Joe Schmo in Russia who has no care to be in this war, nothing.
Because it seems to be most of them.
Seems to be most of them, but we don't know that that's true. But whatever.
Yeah.
You just went from and let's say you were just on the verge of scraping by. You just went from scraping by to you have nothing, like nothing. Dude, I don't see anything good coming out. I don't agree with Russia on this war. From what I can get, the details are right now. I don't agree with all. To me, Ukraine isn't defense. Fine, do their thing. To me, watching what's happening with the Russian economy, how can this end anyway good? You know what I mean? Let's say that
Yeah.
Ukraine keeps Russia off its borders, fights them off, and it ends. But with the Russian economy literally fucking tanking,
It's already tanked. It's gone.
Well, it is. But let's say it goes worse.
Okay.
How would you not have like a country backed in a corner situation to where the only feasible thing they see is fuck it, let's just fight everywhere?
I think that's what we're looking at. So
Yeah,
if you
I
look
was
at
talking with some buddies. I think this is more of a survival thing than it is a security thing.
so
Because
do
if
you
go
think that's
back
now that
to-
he already invaded, or do you think he invaded because of that?
I think he invaded because of that. So if you go back to, and I don't want to make this all about Ukraine, because I think people are going to be fucking completely just like beating a dead horse with it.
All right, get to your point then. Beat your horse.
If you go back to when the USSR was a thing, Ukraine, like, so we all know it was communist or socialist or whatever you want to call it, but the Ukraine was one of its areas that provided most of its food, because most places in Russia or in the USSR you couldn't grow food. So the Ukraine was a shit ton of farmers that produced food for all of the USSR. So what happened was, when the farmers were starving, they were creating all the food, but they were starving, and they voted to get the fuck out of the USSR, because why wouldn't you? And be independent. And now with Russia slowly declining and their fucking economy crushing, and COVID being a thing, and inflation happening, and oh shit, food's not on the shelves, I think it was a survival thing. I think it's they have to get that land to actually survive.
You might be right.
One of the things that if you have read anything about the Cold War, whenever we had a defector come over, the thing that blew their mind was grocery stores.
Oh yeah.
They'd never seen anything like that, where you could just get whatever you wanted throughout the year. Like, that blew their mind. And to me, I think it has more to the whole thing has more to do with survival than it does. He's worried about NATO. That might be an excuse.
You might
he
be
also
right.
looks like Putin looks like shit. You see,
He does look like shit, yeah. But he also, like, his reaction and his most recent actions after they invaded Ukraine, he seems like he realizes he drastically underestimated what he got himself into.
I mean, dude, he has a lot more numbers. He could throw a lot more people at this, but
you have to look at willpower too. So Ukrainians,
they don't have a fight.
Ukrainians have something to fight for.
Yeah,
a lot of the people in the Russian military, for one, a lot of them are conscripted. I don't know the ratio or percentage of how many are, but a conscripted military personnel doesn't want to be there. And on top of that, a lot of them, even if they chose to be in the military, they appear to not really have any interest in doing what they're doing. If you watch any of the videos of them, like there was a video of a tank convoy with a bunch of trucks, and one civilian stepping in front of them. It's a war zone. They could just run them over, but they all stop. Yeah. Every truck goes around them. They don't appear to have any real fight in what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, that comes down to organization, right? But it also, from what I'm getting, and God knows if any of it's true, most of the soldiers were fed a bill of goods, thinking that they were going to go over and walk into open arms, and they got there, and it was not what they were expecting.
Yeah.
So when they see people laying in front of their tanks, so they can't move, they're not there. They don't want to kill people. At least most of them, some of them, and so now they're at they're a moral crossroads. Speaking
of misinformation, I fell for that a little bit. We're talking about, because there's another episode you guys haven't heard yet, where we're talking about the issue with how Ukraine and Russia interact. Admittedly, I'm not really big on Ukraine and Russia and Russian politics and their relationship.
Yeah, why would you be?
It didn't really matter to me. I did not realize just how fucking huge Ukraine is. It's the second biggest country in Europe.
A lot of people don't realize how big Russia is.
Well, Russia's huge. It's 10% of the global landmass. Most of it's fucking useless, but Ukraine is massive. You know, before all this happened, my mind in Ukraine was the same as every other shitty Eastern European country that no one wants to think about. Like, who gives a shit, you know? But it's massive.
I thought you were going on size there.
But it's massive. And I was talking about, half the people in Ukraine want to be Russian, half the people don't, because they split it between West and East Ukraine. I didn't realize that East Ukraine is this big and West Ukraine is this big.
Mm.
It's not really a fair split.
No, it's not.
So now I'm a little more informed. Yeah, that statement's not true. They're not really arguing over who wants to be there. They want to be Ukraine.
Like I said, there's a lot of misinformation flying around. And it's interesting to sit back and watch it unfold. It's also terrifying to watch it unfold.
Yeah, it is.
You know, because God knows what propaganda you're being fed from what side, and it's brutal.
Now, speaking of propaganda, I sent you a picture message earlier today. I think it was earlier today, maybe yesterday. It was the estimate for the outcome of the 2024 election.
Oh yeah, I think that's a joke.
Oh, it's definitely a joke, but I saw that and it cracked me up because it seems like that could totally happen. I'll put it up for you guys right here over the video.
I think I'll never be able to understand politics, man. I'll never be able to understand the way people vote or why they vote or anything. Like, it would. I don't know how anyone could sit back and vote for Ted Cruz. Like, the dude is literally fucking got no spine.
No, I don't think he'll get very far if he does try and run. Now, DeSantis.
So before we get into DeSantis, the other side, Kamala Harris, like, I don't see many people voting for her.
Oh yeah, looking at the picture that I just put up for you guys, there's no way Kamala Harris is going to be that far into the race without getting kicked. She's not going to get that far. She's incredibly unpopular already because she appears to not do anything. I don't know if that's true, but she doesn't seem like she's doing anything.
I don't know if she's not doing anything. I think she's having a hard time working with others, which great. That's exactly what you want in the presidency.
Yeah, but that's the best thing in a vice president. They can't work with other people. This is all hearsay and rumors coming from the White House. I have no idea if any of it's true, but so far the public image of Kamala Harris is not a good one. And
no.
You know, it's a popularity contest at the end of the day. It's not a real presidential run.
But aren't they all popularity contests at the end of the day?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, go off Biden. Like, what did he promise? But there's so many people are like, you promised that you were going to take care of my student loans. It's like, if you are voting for any of these people off of what they promised, I got a bridge to sell you. It's in the Ukraine.
You know what's funny is when Biden was running, you remember me saying that he was a warmonger?
Yeah, I've heard it before.
He consistently votes for war.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised that with his history, he's not sending someone over to Ukraine right now.
Yeah,
it's a different situation, but
yeah, the implementation of fucking sending troops to Ukraine right now is massive. I'm a military man. Like, I understand, going to action and stuff like that. But dude, if you send troops to Ukraine right now, you just light off fucking World War III.
That's
like legitimately. I think most things you see right now about World War III are complete utter bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think it's very likely, but anything could happen.
I mean, again, if you have Russia in the situation they are, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But I think American boots on the ground in Ukraine is a quick way to do that.
That's probably the only reason we haven't gone over there, because I am 100% certain that if we had American troops there, we'd be looking at World War III. No doubt.
I also think I was talking with my wife about this. She had a hard time understanding why we weren't sending people over there. I was like, because this is it's America. We have to vote to go to war, right? We could send over the Marine Corps, but we're not gonna. But we have to vote to go to war. And this is how, like, if you look at World War II, this is what happened in World War II. And I believe World War I as well. You send over all sorts of supplies, equipment, and whatnot, charge them like $1 for it, if anything. And you keep giving them supplies until it reaches a point where, oh, you know what, we got to be in this fucking thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or we get dragged into it. All right. So on a lighter note, enough Ukraine, enough fucking World War III and violence and political bullshit. We'll end on some movie rantings that Jerry usually likes to do. Have you seen the new Kingsman movie?
I did, and I
seen
saw
the old Kingsman movie.
I saw the other two as well, and I watched this one. I don't know, 2 weeks ago.
I enjoy all of them, but I watched
this one's called The King's Man, not The Kingsman.
Well, because it's the beginning. It's the origin.
It's The King's Man. Yeah, it was actually a surprisingly sad movie.
It is a very sad movie, but I found it funny because I watched it with my wife. I don't know that my wife was ever into military history or anything like
Right.
that. What she believes she got for education versus what I got for education is vastly different. But as we're watching the movie, I'm fucking cracking up because like stupid shit pops up like Rasputin and Lenin and fucking.
I love their portrayal of every single historical character.
Absolutely, like Rasputin was fucking great.
Yeah, it was.
And like I'm laughing and she's not laughing at these points, and I'm like, she must just not know that much about him. But it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. Rasputin fucking killed me, dude.
He was my favorite in the whole thing.
Oh yeah, but you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, this is all the shit they said about him, and like they're tying it into how World War One just kept going, and it's like, yep, it all works. Like this is fucked up that they did this.
When they wrote Rasputin's character, I feel like they read his history and like, this dude's batshit crazy. Let's just actually write him how history writes him and see what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
his entire portrayal, like in the back of my mind, I'm replaying everything I've ever read or heard about Rasputin. I'm like,
exactly.
Yeah, this checks out. This all checks out.
Like his fucking taking poison with breakfast every morning so he'd be immune to it, which, God, that's an awful idea. Probably why he was batshit crazy. His fucking like Russian ballet fighting.
Yeah.
It was so good. I enjoyed it. I don't get to watch many new movies, as all of you know. Jerry's always shitting on me that I don't watch movies, but I got to watch that one because I enjoyed that.
I'm proud of you for watching that one because that, it's not exactly cinematic history, but it's a very good and fun to watch movie. I recommend it. You guys should go watch it too.
Way better than Matrix 4.
Without a doubt.
That's gonna be my rating on everything now.
I definitely had a lot more fun watching that than the Matrix 4.
Which is so fucked up.
Actually, you know what? I don't think a lot of people realize how intertwined the families were back then. Because you got all the cousins, King.
Oh, yeah.
The Tsar. And
dude, you're going back far enough.
Yeah. But I don't think people realize that they were kids together. Like that part of the movie is not exaggerated. They knew each other. They were related.
Yeah.
And then they just split up and they're running all of Europe together. Not successfully. They had some issues, but I actually really liked how the fuck's the guy's name? Princip, the assassin who killed the Archduke Franz Ferdinand.
Yep.
That because I know how history happened. I know what I'm expecting to see, and I'm like, holy shit.
But that's my point. Like you're sitting there like,
fucking did it.
I know, yeah. That's why, like, I'm through the movie because they tied in the perfect amount of real history that you're sitting there like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, and so for you guys who don't know the history of World War One, it was started by I can't remember. Can you look up Princip's whole name?
Sure.
So the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, he goes through this parade before World War One started, and this guy Princip, who's Griz is going to look up his name now. He is part of a group who decides they want to assassinate the Archduke. And so he goes outside during the parade as the Archduke goes by and fails miserably at trying to kill him. And so he slinks back into the crowd.
Gavrilo Princip.
Yes, Princip. I can never remember his first name. It's a weird, like Italian sounding name. So anyway, he fails, slinks back into the crowd, and he's out at a cafe one day, later in the day, eating a sandwich, doing cafe things, moping because he failed to assassinate somebody important. Well, this is real life. This happened. The Archduke later that day is trying to go somewhere, and his driver took a wrong turn and stops right in front of Princip. And Princip's like, holy shit, this is the guy. Just stood up, pulled out his pistol, and killed him. That was the end of that story, and that's how World War One started.
Which, like, if that ain't fucking the world just aligning for you.
Yeah, you don't get that lucky twice. I can't believe that actually happened in real life and started a world war.
Listen, that's all it takes, I guess, right? I mean, look at where we're at now. It won't take much.
Don't you do it. We're not talking about Ukraine again.
Yeah, we need to talk about something lighter.
There we go. We'll end it right there on history porn for you guys. So I recommend you guys go watch that movie. But before you do, brush up on your history because it makes the movie that much better.
It does. So before we go, as you guys know, we release things all over the place, not necessarily in the order they're recorded. Jerry and I had a bet about whether or not Russia and Ukraine would light off. And we don't remember who won or lost, but we remembered that if it actually came down and they went to fighting, we were going to have to do the one chip challenge. So unfortunately, Gerry and I are going to be dying. Not right now. We'll do a separate recording for that. Now, so if you guys want to check that out, we'll be posting that. Do we know when?
No, it's going to be soon though. So I love spicy food. I don't handle super hot food very well. So we're going to actually do that chip thing in its own little episode, because I can promise you, once I start eating that, I'm not going to make it an hour. I might have to go throw up.
Well, we might have to have a topic conversation afterwards, but like 10 minutes just to see how long we can hold a conversation.
I'm going to try and eat the whole chip, but I'm not promising you guys anything. It's just going to be 10 minutes of us coughing and dying.
Yeah, Ralphing. Thank you again for listening to Beautiful Bastards. New episodes every Monday. Remember to like and subscribe. I'm not good at the advice. Can I interest you in a sarcastic comment?
People say nothing's impossible, and yet here we are doing it every week.
So true.